Reggie, good morning to you. How are you doing?
Doing well. How about you, Paul?
I think I'm doing pretty good. It's been a hectic week, a lot going on, would you believe or not? We've got a lot to cover. But as always, we like to start our Sustac Plans Chat Club, where we talk about AI innovations and ethics in marketing and business. I'm PR Smith, and we've got Reggie Johnson from Fort Worth, Texas. Reggie, great to see you. Thanks for getting up at this unruly hour. Uh, Reggie's Director of Communications at the University of North Texas, the Division of Student Affairs. So, you've got your finger on the button with people's feelings, younger people's feelings about AI, as well as my older perspective, if you like, or more perceptions on it. We've got a busy day today. We'll do the agenda in just a minute, but as always, we'd like to start off with a little bit of music. And we have played for the last few weeks a young lady by the name of Leah. We're just going to go back to the Blues Festival is on in Ealing at the moment. It's world famous and you get lots of interesting people there, and the Jazz Festival and so on. So I thought we'd play a little piece from Tim Hain, the father of Blegay. That's blues and reggae mixed together. And there's a beautiful song about the NHS, National Health Service, by Tim Haines. And it's called Somebody Turn on the Light.
Would you walk me to my car? I'm afraid of the dark. Just last week I was attacked in a car park. Was a gang of youths could see I'm a cripple and I can't walk. I said, oh my God, she's easy prey. Everybody's easy prey these days. But was there ever honor among thieves? Still it's hard to believe. Somebody turn on the light. It's getting mighty dark.
Oh, that's Somebody Turn on the Light from Tim Hain. A beautiful piece. We'll play the full thing at the end. The father of Blegay, a local musician here as well, and very, very talented guy, Tim Hain. So we put the link to that for those that want to listen, and we play it at the end on the way out. So we've got a busy session today, folks. We are talking about AI being out of control. And this is the final part, 4 of 4, but I'll summarize parts 1, 2, and 3 as well. Then we're going to talk about Trump weaponizing AI. Then we're going to have a look at, well, in fact, we're going to bring Wayne back next week to talk about the AI Kids chatbot designed to be explicit, which is very worrying, and he specializes in this area. So we'll bring Wayne in on that one next week. I will say something about Meta being sued by porn companies because they're being accused of being in stealing porn and using porn to train some of their models. So I'll be covering that. We talk about agentic AI increasing prices. And agentic AI being blocked by Amazon, partly as a result of that, I'm sure. We will also have a piece at the very end about the future of AI. And time allowing, we'll talk about AI actually offering a wonderful opportunity to integrate all our efforts around brands to build brands in the long term, something that's forgotten about in the heat of battle and the desire for more attention and more engagement and more inquiries and more funnel, sales, etc., market share. But sometimes we forget the brand has to grow as well, and that's the long-term future of most businesses is the brand. So we'll look at AI integrating brands, time allowing. If not, we'll bring it on next week. So we wanted to kick off with this first piece, which is important, and it's about AI being out of control. Now, this is from a guy called Stephen Adler, who was he worked in the safety department in Meta. And he was very concerned. Sorry, not Meta, OpenAI, and he was very concerned about the safety issues, and he felt his job was to inform the board about safety of the stuff they're creating, this AI they're creating. Were they ready for AGI? And artificial general intelligence, then that's the idea of AI and matching or surpassing all cognitive abilities, if you like. So it's just AI being clever across all cognitive tasks. It's that moment when some say it's here, some say it's around the corner. But so he was concerned, and his first concern, Stephen Adler's concern from OpenAI, was that there's no scorecard, there's no way of regulating if it is safe what we're doing. And he said, well, what's the most important thing that we should be tracking? And it should be tracking, are we how would you say, aligning the corporate goals with human goals Or is it just a race for market share, regardless of human goals, of what dangers it might bring to humans? So, that's a very simple thing to gauge and can be gauged, but nobody's doing it. So there is a threat. And Stephen Adler says that superintelligence threatens everybody. And that there's basically no one with their hands on the wheel. And it shouldn't be built until there are ways of controlling it. So part two of AI spinning out of control, we said, well, why can't you just turn off the AI? It's simple as that. And the problem is, once it's out there, you might be lucky and be able to hunt it down, but I wouldn't rely on being able to do that. So again, there's no one with their hands on the wheel. What if it gets out there before there's any safeguards of controlling this? For example, they shouldn't be teaching AI to speak Neuralese. Humans should be able to know what's going on between the computers, what they're talking about, what plans they have, etc. So there is no kind of rigorous tests at a certain level within most of these companies, and so nobody knows what really is being built, what it's capable of. And a few months ago, this was picked up by Stephen Adler. He said a few months ago, he checked OpenAI's published system cards and its testing reports, and there was no evidence that OpenAI has kept this commitment, a supposed commitment to keeping it safe and carefully going step by step building this. So what happens in the future when models are smart enough to disguise their misbehavior? So part three we looked at and said it's all about AI safety, and there's a safety firm called Paladise Research, and that they found that OpenAI's O3 and O4 mini models sometimes refuse to shut down, and they will sabotage computer scripts in order to keep working on tasks, i.e. to exist. Now that's kind of shocking. Self-preservation being more important than the tasks they're given, or updating the model itself. So the model was explicitly being told to shut down, and it refused to be shut down. So that was particularly worrying, and we need to be able to predict in advance if these things are controllable or not, and rather than just build them and hope they're controllable. At the moment, it seems like nobody's got their hands on the wheel. So it seems like that we're trying to create or initiate an intelligence explosion, regardless of what's happening. So some Anthropic researchers are saying things like, well, our ultimate goal is to go home and knit sweaters whilst Cloud is developing the next generation of smarter machines. That's like letting the machines just create it from here. And they kind of think, and Stephen Adler said this, AI will peter off, it'll plateau because there's only so much data. But that's wrong. He says that's wrong. He says that's not true. You can create infinite data, and you can trade compute for data. So it seems like people are gunning for the super intelligence without really thinking about it, and there's no limit on intelligence. And the more intelligence you have, the more capability, the more agency, the more power, the more control. And this is the danger of this kind of digital stuff. So Sam Altman is saying that superhuman machine intelligence is the greatest threat to the continued existence of humanity. I'll say it again because he said it before. Sam Altman said, superhuman machine intelligence is the greatest threat to the continued existence of humanity. He said it, yet his company wants him to go full steam ahead of building products that they don't know how to make safe. So multiple safety teams have been disbanded in OpenAI. We don't think that OpenAI is going to handle safety responsibly. There's a lot more focus on money over safety. So that was parts 1, 2, and 3. Now, just to give you a quick summary of part 4, I think there are many, like many people within OpenAI, the legal policy seems to be really they don't want others within the company to talk about extinction of the human species. It's bad for business. AI has goals different than what humanity wants for it seems. And Sam Altman famously said, in the worst case, AI might mean lights out for us all. That's Sam Altman, the guy who's building this stuff. So you can see the worries that there are out there. It's scary stuff. We have treaties around chemicals and we have treaties around nuclear, but we don't have any treaties or agreements in place of how we should control this thing everybody's rushing to build. So basically, superintelligence is a red line. And, Andrew Miotti, who was interviewing Stephen Adler, he said, nobody should build this. Nobody should threaten the lives of everybody on the planet if we don't know how to control it. We don't have to go forever without superintelligence, but we should stop it until we know how to control it. We should delay it and not race into it any further. That's where we'll stop there. There needs to be caution. So all sorts of things can be done with AI. Fair enough, we get that. Reggie, I want to ask you about, you mentioned this before, and we didn't have time to talk about it in previous weeks, and I want you to come back to this if it's okay, is how Trump plans to weaponize AI's superhuman persuasion.
Yeah, this is a really concerning one. It's something that's been on my mind for a while. You've heard me mention before my concern about how the AI companies, desperate for cash, when are they going to start selling their persuasive power? Now that people are turning to AI tools to answer their questions about facts and do research, when are they going to start selling their spin and their PR to the highest bidder? As we've seen networks have bought accounts on social media do on the black market. And this is something that I have been saying is coming and I'm concerned about. And now you combine that with the current US administration, Donald Trump's administration, his penchant for fake news, dishonesty. I mean, this isn't me throwing this out there. That it was cataloged 33,000 lies in his first term, and I think it's only ramped up in the meantime. Claimed to have won an election that he clearly lost, and won't let go of that. I mean, just when you think of Donald Trump, you think of words like post-truth, fake news, dishonesty. I mean, there's just no getting around that based on political affiliation, whichever side you're on. So he's attacked the media and any objective source of truth and tried to say it's not reliable. Listen to me instead. Well, now we have his new 25-page plan for American AI dominance. And Parker Malloy wrote about this on Substack, on her blog on Substack called The Present Age. It was really well written about how Trump plans to weaponize AI's superhuman persuasion because, Trump's plan talks about U.S. AI dominance. Forget about safety, forget about controls. We don't want to limit innovation. It's too important. We've got to beat China. So no rules and regulations. We talked about how the big, bold, beautiful bill had a clause in it that said that states weren't allowed to put laws to protect their citizens from AI. And how is he going to enforce that? Well, through federal government money that helps states to install internet to rural communities. He said, you can't have that money unless you comply with my needs. So another area that Trump is synonymous with is utilizing whatever leverage the federal government has to expand his power to overcome checks and balances on the power of the federal government. So here we have his 25-page plan for American AI dominance. And in the middle of it is a reference to they want to eliminate ideological bias from AI systems and eliminate top-down ideological bias. Well, that sounds good. We want AI to be objective, right? We want it to be neutral, except that it's Trump's decision on what neutral means. And he's talked about specifically concepts, acknowledging concepts like unconscious bias, intersectionality, and systemic racism are violations of that neutrality. So referencing systemic racism is a violation of neutrality. There's also in the safety frameworks for AI, he has ordered them to remove references to climate change, misinformation, and DE&I.
Whoa, Reggie, he's ordered them not to mention these things?
Yes, in the safety guidelines, the safety frameworks. This was the National Institute of Standards and Technologies. Their AI risk management framework. He's asked them to remove references to misinformation, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and climate change because those were some of the risks they've associated with AI. And he said you need to remove those items from your list of risks because Trump's followers are famous for spreading misinformation. Trump himself is famous for spreading misinformation. So the problem is now he's saying he wants AI systems to be dogma-free, ideologically unbiased. He's been harping against woke ideology, which is just another way of dehumanizing the enemy. If you're left leaning or if you're against me, you're woke. You're woke. That's become a bad word to say. You're woke if you don't agree with me. If you're disloyal to me, you're woke. And so they're this anti-woke force trying to create. The thing is, it's projection. Obviously, he's got his bias and his ideology, but he's parading it as neutrality while calling what some would argue is already objective or neutral, or as objective and neutral as any human system can be, as being ideologically biased. For example, the Attorney General of Missouri wrote a letter to the AI companies criticizing their woke bias because they did not list Trump as the #1 president on anti-Semitism issues. This is what we're seeing from that side of the aisle right now. They want to enforce their bias, their ideology on AI systems. And how are they going to How can they force private companies, though, to implement their own ideology on their systems? Well, government contracts. Once again, overcoming checks and balances on power to expand authoritarian style rule by saying your AI company cannot have any government contracts unless you comply with my idea of what ideology should look like
Oh my
in
goodness.
AI.
Right. Okay. Let me try and summarize this for you, Reggie. What I think you've just said there, which is shocking, is that the data that's going to be used to train large language models and so on will not be allowed to include stuff about environmentalism or other issues that are sensitive to the government. And if you don't adhere to that, you will not be allowed tender or receive contracts from the government, which is mega, mega, mega money. And all the AI companies are chasing that dollar from government projects. Is that the fair gist of it?
Yes, yes, and this could be something where, we saw with Grok where somebody asks a question about baseball and they get a lecture about white genocide and conspiracy theory in South Africa. It could be if somebody asks a question and they give an answer about climate change, that AI company could be penalized. I mean, we can see how this is implemented, but this is an outright ideological control. This is straight out of Orwell. And
Yeah.
this is why it's one of the hardest pieces I've ever had to present and read through, because
Yeah.
this is straight out of George Orwell. This is
It
thought
is.
control straight from the president to
Okay.
everybody that uses AI.
Okay, what we'll do, Reggie, we will put the link to this post. It's a serious piece of work, and those that are really want to delve into it, they can kind of go through it and find detail. It's quite a significant post. Thank you for being able to summarize that, because there's a lot in it. And as Robin Davis says, there's such a busy agenda. Maybe the world is spinning out of control. We're too busy, but we're not that busy. We can get the key stuff in and let you know about it. For example, more AI spinning out of control is this Meta porn story by Louisa Jarofsky. Now, we've quoted Louisa before, and she's very good, and we'll put a link to her article. But basically, she says that 2 adult film companies are suing Meta for copyright infringement. They're alleging that Meta used their content, over 2,000 adult films, to train its AI models. Now, here's the irony. Will porn help save AI copyright issues once and for all? I mean, how weird is that if that's the case? But so they're suing them for direct copyright infringement and secondary copyright infringement as well. So this lawsuit makes Meta particularly nervous, as the company doesn't want anything to do with adult film companies. So having 2 adult film companies say that Meta use porn to train its AI models is not good PR for Meta. So, Meta's user base is heavily composed of minors. And one of Meta's big plans for 2025 and beyond is pushing its AI friends to its billions of users, including minors. So Meta has continuously claimed that the EU is over-regulating AI and declaring it will not sign the EU Code of Practice. It's the only one of the big boys that I can see out there that's refusing to sign it. The rest are begrudgingly signing it, which is a great thing. But unexpectedly,
they're signing it, but using that as an opportunity to get their sound bites forever connected to it in LLMs.
and their soundbite is criticizing the EU regulations. Yes, that's correct. But the others have signed begrudgingly. But Meta is the only one that doesn't seem to have signed at this point for the EU regulations. So it seems to me a case of the tech oligarchs wanting to do whatever they want without any regulations. And as I said before, you wouldn't allow a new car to be launched on the market without safety tests. Why are we allowing AI models and products onto the marketplace without being regulated and tested for safety? It's crazy. How dare them demand this right? So unexpectedly, this porn lawsuit might offer a strong push in favor of creators' rights. I mean, that is ironic, I have to say. It is. Okay, so we go on to agentic AI increasing prices. Reggie, you and I have been talking about this. Who wants to go with this one?
I think this one's one of my topics. So
Yep.
Do you know how prices are set in a capitalistic society? Prices are set. Well, how are prices set?
Supply and demand.
Right, supply and demand. And when you have something like, say, airline fees, it's a very complex process. Same as like stocks. It's a lot of different moving pieces at once, all electronically. One person may pay a different price than another person, but that's not because of who the person is. That's because it was a certain day that they bought their ticket, or it was a certain platform, and their competitor at a certain discount. So there's a lot of moving pieces, but supply and demand essentially. Well, imagine a future where prices are not transparent, and instead, through agentic AI, the algorithmic setting of prices allows AI agents to look at you through your digital signatures and figure out not what the product is worth based on supply and demand, but what you, Paul Smith, are able to pay. It knows how much you spend on watches, or maybe say, even my concern, how much you tip your pizza man, and how much you tip the pizza delivery person or your Uber. And so it figures out you can afford to pay this much, so it's going to charge you, say, $1,000 for your plane ticket. Somebody else that thinks it can only get 350 from. Somebody else that thinks, hey, we can get this guy for 5,000. Can you imagine a world where prices are set based on AI's knowledge of an individual person, and then kind of almost extorting them for what they can pay?
Yeah.
But yeah, this is something we're seeing because Delta released we read this piece was from Rebecca Boltzma on LinkedIn. Delta quietly announced they're rolling out AI that basically reads your digital soul and charges accordingly. It's a beta test for post-market capitalism, is her words. The AI doesn't just see the supply and demand, it sees you, your desperation at 2 a.m., your zip code, how you shop, and whether you clear cookies
Wow.
in your browser.
So, whether you're really on the ball and vigilant and all the rest of it. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Is this going to be the new trend?
Yeah. I mean, it's optimizing profits. And maybe there are discussions about economics and the old rules of economics. Are they valid today? And this would suggest that really supply and demand's out the window. It's about intelligence and payment rather than supply and demand. So he who has the data has the power once again.
Well, you've been saying that data is the most valuable resource on earth for quite some time now.
Yeah, I've had this argument with accountants that data should be the asset that's the most valuable asset on your balance sheet. And it's intangible, but it can be quantified. And for some reason, some say, oh, well, it's included in general goodwill, but I think it should be more specific. If I was buying a company, I would like to know what kind of data they've got, how many clients and prospects and customers and influencers they have, and what level of detail they have on them, and relationship they have, and engagement they have. I'd like to know all that stuff. I think it's really valuable. So that data it's changing economics, that's for sure. I would love to be a fly on the wall watching some economic lectures these days, because
it could bring about an end to the transparency, competition, and informed choice being the standards of price setting in capitalism.
Yeah. Well, staying with AI agents, Reggie, some more on privacy and security risks by Louisa Jarowski again. She was saying that OpenAI just launched ChatGPT Agent. So the more autonomous the agent, the more permissions and access rights it will require. So before you start using a ChatGPT agent, or any agent for that matter, remember it's going to have to access probably your wallet, your credit card, if not your wallet, your credit card details. It'll probably need access to your calendar and your contact list. So for example, if you wanted to go and get me a ticket to see Oasis on Sunday night in Wembley Stadium, and get me the best deal you can, to do all that, it's going to have to look at your calendar, make sure it's clear to do it. It will probably want to see your contact list. If you want to tell your friends you're going to Oasis, maybe see them before or after the gig. It certainly will have to get access to your credit card or your payment systems or your wallet. So any permission given to a third-party app or system has potential privacy and security risks. So, this is a big issue. And Sam Altman, he posted it on X, recommending that people give agents the minimum access required to complete a task. So you might want to vary what access you give it to for various tasks to secure yourself. There was that really interesting piece a few weeks ago that we did about Meredith Whittaker. She's the president of Signal. Now, she really is someone worth watching, and it's really interesting to listen to her. But, she's a senior advisor on AI policy for the FTC in America, Reggie, the Federal Trade Commission. And she said the dangers of granting AI agents access to sensitive personal data, credit cards, calendars, messaging apps, and more. It's compromising privacy and trust. So there's risk, the security risk, and there's privacy risk as well. And she says, it's all about this magic genie bot that will do everything for you, but it's going to take all this data as well. And maybe with the best of intentions of keeping it secure, but the world's hackers will be going after these guys. So be careful is all we're saying. I think the bottom line there is be careful in using GPT agents and giving them access and letting them run your show and doing all your brain thinking for you. And check out Meredith Whittaker. I'll put a mention of her in the show notes on prsmith.org/blog afterwards. Okay, moving on, because we just got 5 minutes. Again, Amazon. I saw this week that the Amazon were blocking Google agents. Now, this is interesting. So Amazon will probably see an agent kind of competing. As you were saying, Reggie, the agent is fishing for the best price it can get, and it'll check Amazon and it'll check elsewhere, and it will redirect the purchase to wherever it decides is the best price. Thank you very much, Mr. Agent. That's very helpful. But Mr. Amazon, who again is a broligarch, they're saying, well, that's not good for us, because we would capture the audience, make it so easy for them to just click, and it's delivered same day or next day, job done, and people aren't checking the prices that much. So I guess it competes. The agents compete with Amazon and retailers, other retailers maybe as well. So Amazon have taken the move. They've modified its website code to insert language specifically aimed at blocking AI shopping agents from Google. So mechanisms that automatically browse and make purchases on Amazon's platform are now being detected, and they're being restricted. And Amazon possibly may be restricting bots from Perplexity and Anthropic's Claude. They may have done that previously. There was somebody mentioned, might have been back in 2023. I'm not sure of that, but is this a false alarm? Well, I think if Amazon are doing this, you can see they're no fools. Very clever people, and they see it as a threat to their retail business. So other retailers may feel the same and may put an end. This is early days of agents, so we'll watch this. Certainly, it matters because it's seen as a competitive threat by Amazon from Google and other bots and GPTs, or agents, should I say in particular. It's a strategic defense. Agents that might extract pricing, stock information, or replicate shopping flows. Shopping flows are very important on Amazon. They move you, good retailers move you towards making things easy and interesting and buying on screen. So agents would disrupt that. They're just going to buy now, go next. So the flow would be lost, and suggestions of other products and all that influencer stuff. So there's a bigger trend here, a broader pattern, where large platforms will probably deploy defensive tactics to control external AI tools or their agents. Okay, so
they'd be banking on the trade-off that their brand is big enough and well known enough that missing out on the potential sale through the agent is not going to affect them.
Which brings us back again, Reggie, to the power of the brand. And we as marketers, sometimes under the pressure, particularly if you're publicly owned, you've got to produce quarterly results, and everything's about quarterly results and short-term focus as opposed to long-term building of a brand, which is building the long-term future. So the funnel is not everything. It's, I would say, one half of the equation, but we seem to forget about the brand building nature of it all. So it's really important to keep that in mind. Okay, we have got 2 minutes. Reggie, could you give us the future of AI in 2 minutes? Is that possible?
Yes, I'll give you that in 2 minutes. So Stephen Klein wrote about the future of AI. He said, if you want to know the future of AI, just watch Star Trek: The Next Generation. You understand Data, the android, who is as part of the Enterprise crew. He says what we're getting wrong today is consultants are selling AI to companies by saying it can turn your company into a factory. It can automate things. Humans are bottlenecks, and we need to get past that. Automation, speeding up, all that kind of a thing. Whereas what was Data? What was the ship's computer? They were augmentation, thinking augmentation, not automating, not doing what humans do with more efficiency. His point was that it's partnering with humans, imagining new ways of thinking, creating, and deciding, not just faster ways to do what we already do. So the ship's computer, this is a quote, the ship's computer wasn't a task engine, it was a thinking partner. That's his point about the future of AI. We'll be embracing that kind of model.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. And I know we've been dealing for the last few weeks and months with the dark and dastardly stuff of AI, but I do believe AI can do a lot of good. We know it can do good in medicine and education, all sorts of interesting areas and innovation. And I think marketers and business people should be using AI and experimenting with it, but not taking it as de rigueur replacement of humans. It can do a lot of automated work. We've had that for some time. But I think it can be creative. It can be used creatively and for testing and bouncing and developing and integrating. So I'd agree with that, Reggie. Yeah, we should think of AI like a partner and use it in that way. So we will be having lots more conversations about these topics, and in particular, the positive use of AI in marketing, because I'm very conscious we'd be kind of pulled in this big trend that's unfolding every week. We need to warn people about the stuff that's out there and, you know, errors that are being made by others and so on, so we can avoid those costly mistakes ourselves. But
do you have time to tell us about your soccer jersey, Paul?
Oh, my Ugandan shirt. Yeah. This is, I did a talk for the Marketing Society in Uganda, Kampala, last year. And they gave me this beautiful shirt, which I'm very proud of. But the reason I'm wearing it today is my daughter is a teacher, and she's taken her summer holidays, as teachers are entitled to, but she's volunteering as a teacher in Uganda, in the depths of the jungle, in a tiny little school. And she said it's one of the most beautiful things she's ever. Well, she's done a lot of charity work, and she's done this before, but not been to Uganda before. And she's teaching these kids that have so little, barely the books, but they get in early to discuss each other and help each other with their homework. And they're so hungry to learn, and they're so beautiful and so gorgeous. They're just, she said, it's a dream working with people like that, you know. So I'm wearing my Uganda shirt in honor of my daughter, who's out there in Uganda at the moment. And to all our Ugandan friends, I love you and really enjoyed my last visit. And I'm proudly wearing your lovely football shirt, which I don't know if they'll make it to the World Cup. I don't know if Ireland will make it to the World Cup in America next year, but we'll see. Okay, it's just 1 minute after 1:30, and we do try to keep the show somewhat to time. So I'm going to say thanks very much, Reggie. We'll post all the comments, or we'll post, should I say, if anybody sends any comments, I will always reply to you. So it'll be there on the post that you've come in on, so you can follow this up and listen to it again if you want, or see the notes and comments. And I'll post everything on piersmith.org/blog. And we're going to go back to Tim Hain, the wonderful father of Blege, to finish it out. I wish you all a great weekend. So all the best, Reggie, and all the best to you folks. Have a great weekend. Here's here is the wonderful Tim Hain. Somebody turn on a light. Here we go.
Would you walk me to my car? I'm afraid of the dark. Just last week I was attacked in a car park. Was a gang of youths that say I'm a cripple and I can't walk. I said, oh my God, she's easy prey. Everybody's easy prey these days. But was there ever honor among thieves? Still it's hard to believe. Somebody turn on a light. It's getting mighty dark. Somebody turn on a light. I don't care who you are. Somebody turn on a light. Illuminate my soul. Illuminate this world. My girl's uncle, lying in a hospital bed, almost dead. He asked for water, 9 o'clock in the morning. They bring him his water, 6 o'clock in the evening, and I say, oh my God, I don't understand. The world we're living in, this is England. Can't afford water for a dying man. Spend millions on war and weapons. Can't comprehend. Somebody turn on the light. It's getting mighty dark. Somebody turn on the light. I don't care who you are. Somebody